Thank you, Lynn, for that reading. Ross Gay is one of my absolute favorites. And that short lyrical piece, Sharing a Bag, is one of 102 essays published in his 2019 compilation, The Book of Delights. Don't you love that title? Gay spent a year writing them, recording everywhere he went, the small joys, shared bonds, often overlooked delights that swim around us humans all day. In an interview, he said that, quote, "In the course of writing this, I became acutely aware of the simple and subtle and almost accidental kindnesses that we're constantly in the midst of." He has, over many years, openly spoken and written about his lived experience as a Black man in America, depending upon this attention to beauty and kindness and delight that indeed abounds in this, our shared land of plenty. Those are his words, shared land of plenty. This particular book makes its home in my little morning meditation nook. When I bought it, each essay became a kind of daily reading. This is something my husband Jason and I do every morning. We sit and read and have about 20 or 30 minutes of silence. It's a wonderful practice to start your day with. And reading from the Book of Delights was especially a blessed way to start the day, especially in days such as this. In days such as this. And I'll tell you why. Because orienting yourself to that which is beautiful, delightful, life-giving, this orientation serves as a vital and necessary reminder that more abundance and hope abounds than does the opposite. So now we need to talk about scarcity, right? Lauren's already helped us with this today. The scarcity myth. Maybe some of you have heard of that. This is what many economists and social scientists and liberation theologians, those who work for justice, this is what they are calling the foundation upon which we all sit. The scarcity myth. All things growing up out of it. You know this myth well, my friends. You and I, we were born into it. We were raised up in it, as were our parents and our grandparents and beyond. It is in the collective waters, whether we realize it or not. It's the result of those oppressive systems that I have preached about before. We're working hard to dismantle. And let me break this down a bit for you. So first, we are inundated every day with the messaging that tells us both explicitly and implicitly that there is not enough to go around, right? Act now, buy now, save now, or you are going to miss out. There won't be more, so get it and keep it while you can. And this drives so many of our decisions, mostly completely unconscious, right? If there's not enough for everyone, then taking care of yourself and your own, even at others' expense, seems unfortunate, but unavoidable and somehow valid. And interestingly, being driven by there's not enough to go around does not make us mindful of, for example, Earth's precious resources. It does not create in us a spirit of gratitude or buying, taking only what we need because there's not enough to go around. It actually drives this competitive culture of accumulation and acquisition and greed, We become the pizza people, whether we realize it or not. And it also fuels that pesky part of us, it is in me as well, that is always preparing for the worst, right? Looking for how things aren't going to work out rather than how they are. For when we live our lives driven by the spirit of scarcity, we live in a constant state of what if. We got the what ifs. What if this or that catastrophe strikes? What if I need this someday? What if I lose something? What if, what if, what if? And most often what sits comfortably right next to the what ifs is the constant and nagging feeling of, I don't or won't have enough, so I'm not enough. Yeah, put that into the 10-spice soup here. I won't or don't have enough, so I'm not enough. One need only to take a few minutes to look at how many ads on radios, billboards, TV, the internet, and beyond to notice the not so implicit message that we aren't successful enough, attractive enough, thin enough, sexy enough, smart enough, happy enough, productive enough, right? Feel free to shout out any others if they come to you. Smart enough, yeah. Scarcity, scarcity, more scarcity. And the insidiousness of this orientation ultimately leaves us resigned, stuck in apathy. Just the way it is. Oh yes, the myth of scarcity keeps the masses in such a state of hopelessness. I don't see another way. This is the reality we live in. Nothing I can do but hold on to what I do have. There's not enough to go around. More is better. That's just the way it is, right? It's a kind of unholy trinity. It's real. So just for fun, just for the sheer delight of it, let's invert this. There's not enough to go around. There is more than enough to go around, and I have so much to give. More is better. Take only what I need, and I will surely know peace and love and joy. That's just the way it is. The world is brimming with hope and promise and possibility, delight and beauty. This is a spirit of abundance. A magic penny. And it is countercultural, right? Can you imagine for a moment if all that we did, bought, saved, governed, was firmly rooted to this kind of orientation, this kind of marketing campaign? Imagine if commerce and the news scroll reflected this in some way. Our holy prophets and sacred texts all point to this orientation, by the way. One need only know God's gift of manna bread, the great, nourishing, spirit-infused bread in the whole Hebrew Bible given to the exiled people of Israel as a symbol of enoughness, of great abundance and promise, taught through it that the world God created in that beautiful myth, is a world of abundant blessing, even in the face of atrocity and despair and oppression. Plenty for everyone. Yes, the spiritual life, organized religion was and is meant to be this place of abundance. There is plenty for everyone here in this house of welcome, in this land of plenty. So you know that it is Stewardship Sunday today. And tomorrow marks the official opening of this congregation's annual appeal, where each of you, member and friend, are asked to consider what you can pledge to give to this, your spirit's home, so that we can meet our budget and pay for all of the wonderful, nourishing things that this church does both within and beyond these, our blessed walls. And you know, I'm going to be straight with you that long ago, when I sat in the pews as a member of my church during Pledge Month, I would zone out a little bit. It's true. Maybe you share that. It's okay. Here's a confession. I mean, we are at church, so I guess this is the place for it. Sometimes I would skip those services, or some of them, because I'd made my pledge, or in a few of those years thought I didn't have enough to pledge, and felt like I didn't need to sit through the month's pitch. Not unlike the feeling I have when NPR arrives at its fundraising time. You all are UUs. You listen to WBUR, and if you're like me, once you give, if you give it all, you just turn the channel, right? And the fundraising folks at WBUR, bless their hearts, they're working overtime for this to not happen, right? For the next 30 minutes, if you give, you'll get a tote bag and a keychain, and if you're a sustained giver, you're entered into a sweepstakes, you can win iPads and tickets to Elton John or a new car. And don't get me wrong, I 100% support and value independent journalism, but so often fundraising can play upon our transactional consumerist mindset, right? I've got to get something in return. What's in it for me? It's the only way to keep our attention. And often if this isn't articulated or promised or explicitly given in an object that arrives in our porches within 5 days, we're out. Spoiler alert, we don't have any Hamilton tickets or Priuses to give out this year at annual appeal. I joke, but I say this with seriousness. We have something way better to give. Because we offer this blessed month in a church year, for it is, where each of you get to be radical. We UUs love to be radical and countercultural, right? We're offered the invitation to embody and point our faith in the direction of abundance. And the prayer here is that you will know deep in your hearts that you have so much to give to this house of peace and hope and possibility. And that there's joy to be found in giving it without fear or what ifs driving your pledge or your non-pledge, but rather with the faith that we here in this place give as an outpouring of love and nourishment and plenty, like that manna bread, so that others might be sustained by it, so that our spirits are sustained by it. And this time of invitation isn't just about dollars and cents, and I hope you really hear that. It's a time for you to consider where in your life you perpetuate the myth of scarcity. Choose it by default. In your relationships, in your relationship to time and work, in your faith, in your faithlessness, in love, in your understanding of hope or goodness. This is all connected to our relationship with money and giving, saving and spending. It is all connected. And for myself, I am working really hard to untangle myself from a scarcity mindset that leaves me believing that I need to perpetually prepare for the worst in order to be a responsible citizen or engaged in the work of liberation and justice in the world. I really am working hard to untangle myself from that thinking. Maybe some of you are working hard as well. So let us return for a moment to Ross Gay's delight in the seemingly inconsequential act that is sharing a bag, where he describes the awkward tethering, the needed modulation required, the whacked shins. For what? To carry a bag or sack that could be done just fine solo, carried just fine on your own? Yes, he says. Yes. It's the lack of necessity of this act that's perhaps precisely why it delights me so. Everything that needs doing, getting the groceries or laundry home, would get done just fine without this meager collaboration. But the only thing that needs doing without this meager collaboration would not. Our choosing abundance might feel unnecessary. It might feel awkward. It will most certainly whack you in your shins and ask you to adjust your modulation. And most likely things will go on getting done just fine without it. But the only thing that really needs doing, this is that place of meaning and faith and boundless love, widened, stretched circles drawn wide and wow, and holy heart transplants, nourishment in the desert, kindness, a deep, deep feeling of interdependence, affirmations, connection, love for your fellows, overflowing cups and leaping joyful shouts and music in our hearts, dance and song and tears of gratitude, peace like a river and joy like a fountain, abundance of life and love and vision and magic pennies, delight in the day and breath in our bodies, abundance. This is the only thing that needs doing, right? And that, my dear friends, is the spirit of church, is the spirit of this church. So as we move through this month, hold this close. Choose abundance, or attempt to. Practice it. Fumble with it. Be radical. Be not afraid. Please don't make your pledge and tune out. Let this time of giving be one that you carry everywhere, beyond your clicks and submits online. For friends, my spiritual companions, this world needs your abundant, I have enough and I am enough self, and this church needs it too. I hope you know that and believe that you have it to give just as you are with all that you have.